Hey everybody, it's your old pal Robert from ThrillRide.com. How you doing? So this morning, another beautiful Southern California morning, I'm in a little park right near where I'm currently living in a neighborhood called Studio City. Now, I was up in Simi Valley for a while. I've relocated down here a few months ago, and it's a neighborhood I'm kind of familiar with because I used to live very close by in another neighborhood called North Hollywood. But Studio City, as you might imagine, is kind of adjacent to a lot of working television and movie studios. And I'm kind of rediscovering the local area now that I'm down here, kind of walking around, including this lovely little city park, very close by to my living space. And in particular, there's a home that was featured in an iconic television series that I knew existed here in LA. But given how much I love this particular show, that I have not come take a look at it yet is kind of silly. So now's the time. And there's a few other cool little quirky parts of the neighborhood that I've discovered recently. So we're just going to take a look around. Hi there, Mr. Squirrel. Hello. Hi, friend. Yeah, I'm just enjoying this park, which is right next to my apartment building. It's quite lovely. Yeah, all right. Enjoy your day there. So, just taking a stroll down one of the local neighborhood streets, and as you can see, even though it's pretty close to some very busy kind of retail stretches, a lot of very beautifully landscaped, tree-lined streets here. Yeah. Oh. Just getting out and walking around. The things about your neighborhood you can discover. And of course, I did shoot an episode somewhat similar when I was up in Simi Valley. Gosh, could have been over a year ago. And yeah, kind of doing the same thing here. And this is great. Somebody's doing a pretty beautiful job getting ready for Easter. Look at that extensive decor. Very nice. So there's a fair amount of traffic noise behind me. That's Laurel Canyon Boulevard, one of those busy urban thoroughfares. But here we are looking at the Los Angeles River. And there is indeed some water flowing here, which is always a good thing to see. Although, yeah, we're into the third year of another drought, and it's getting pretty dire. But to the right, you'll notice there's a lovely footpath and kind of little park to walk through. So we're going to take a stroll down there. I really appreciate this artistic representation of a frog as kind of an archway over the entrance to this park alongside the river. Very nice. Oh yeah, it is. It's a much nicer morning this morning. Had a few days of heat, and that has finally abated, so a lot more pleasant today. Yeah, and a very artistic nod to some more local reptilian residents. Perched on this stone wall is a tail end of what looks to be a pretty titanically huge rattlesnake. I love the way it kind of dips into the ground here. And then it re-emerges way down here. Yeah, beautiful. No fangs bared either. So at this end of the park, the road crosses above the river, and you can see here the other view. The river continues flowing, and back here are the some of the TV and film studios for which the neighborhood is named. You can see over there on the right in the distance is CBS Television, and right now it's hidden behind looks like a catering tent, but here at the Radford Studio Center in Soundstage 22, it looks like they shoot the Connors. Yeah, there seems to be a lot going on right now with all the production vehicles down there, and yeah, I see a lot of lights on. I think some shooting is happening. Neat. And I just discovered recently that right alongside these studio facilities is something called the Radford Art Walk Studio City. It's this lovely little art installation. And the walkway border incorporates a bunch of old studio production lights. I love that. Look at that. Okay, so if you come up behind this piece, there's the placard. It is called Worlds Beyond. All right. I love the bulbs floating through this almost representation of the fabric of the universe. Neat. I don't know who came up with this idea, but they are some kind of genius. This is such a cool way to honor the heritage of this neighborhood. And it's so unexpected. I was just taking a evening stroll and took a turn and just found this area. Oh, nice. There's a piece that appears to be called Enlightenment, which, although it's kind of hidden in shadow, is a doorway with a lot of knobs and locks on it. Yeah, getting through that doorway into Enlightenment. It's a lifelong endeavor. And here's a piece called Baggage. And that is a pretty direct metaphor. That poor little figure on the ground on the left, he or she is dragging a lot of very heavy baggage with them. The human condition, I'm afraid. And here's a piece called Out of Balance. And another sculpture that has a point to make. On the right there, you've got emotion, which is clearly outweighing all these other things like facts, science, information. I think there's a message here that maybe we all need to take to heart. And here's a piece called Debt, and it's also pretty direct in its messaging. It looks like we've got a credit card up there issued by the U.S. Consumption Corporation. And it is very aggressively drilling into the heart of that poor figure. A pretty harsh indictment of the credit system we currently live with. And along with dealing with that drill, looks like this figure has been beheaded. Yeah, nasty. I don't know what this plant is, but I love this bloom, whatever it is, these kind of red bristles tipped with these little golden pollen emitters of some kind. Yeah, that is neat. And continuing with the snake theme, we have knowledge. And I would believe that to be a biblical reference to the tree of knowledge and the temptation of the old snake himself. Yeah, I'm one of those people, I gotta bite that apple, I'm sorry. I'm a big believer in knowledge. Oh, and here's another fairly grim looking sculpture. It looks like the figure of death dragging an incredibly beautiful tree root of some kind. And it is called Untitled. Yeah, seems to be some kind of message about life, death, and kind of nature's way, perhaps. Well, even though you might think this is a dead end, the adventure continues. And you can see across the street too some of the other homes, which kind of speaks to why this home we're going to look at shortly was chosen by the producers to represent kind of a standard middle-class family from that era. Yeah, a lot of the buildings here do seem to be kind of frozen in time from that mid-century period, which I love. And here's a piano that seems to have taken on some additional elements. That's called Silent Spring. You can see the Hollywood sign in there, which is pretty cool. And here's a piece, a little bit of a Game of Thrones thing. The Alpha Male, Violence Something the Throne. Yeah, looks like a comment on toxic masculinity, perhaps. But that's a pretty cool place to sit, I gotta admit. Not maybe so comfortable. Oh, I almost missed a little lizard right on top. That's fantastic. And one of the last pieces here called the Ticking Clock. Does not appear to be ticking. Not sure if it's intended to move, but just another reminder that time indeed marches on. And it's great, they do build these stair steps in, so some of the pieces you can get a little bit closer. And it's called Heroic Mortality. Oh dear. So it looks like that head has been torn asunder somewhat. I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, it looks a little violent. This piece is called Earth Dining. Not quite sure what to make of that. And here's a piece that also has some kind of horrific elements to it. I love this lovely gnarled section of wood, but then the human figure that is on top of it seems to be having a pretty bad day. Holding some sort of a hammer, and these kind of roots are growing up around them. Yeah, spooky. I like that too. And if this had a name, it appears that it's lost to time, unless it's simply called R, but I doubt that. And it looks like the final piece here on the walk is some kind of a little place to gather, hang out and do some grilling, perhaps. Maybe not the most comfortable seating, but that's a pretty cool looking barbecue pit they've created. Yeah, nice. Yeah, this kind of thing, art just randomly appearing in public spaces, warms my heart. Love it so. It is hella peaceful out here right now. As it is most of the time in this neighborhood. It's quite bucolic. Really got lucky finding this area. So we're walking down a street here in Studio City called Dilling Street, which is where this famous edifice is located. And yeah, growing up in Southern California, I was an only child, so I was fascinated by shows that had households full of kids. I always thought it would be great to be in a big family with lots of brothers and sisters. So shows like The Partridge Family, 8 is Enough, The Waltons, just ate it all up. But the show that kind of started it all was the Brady Bunch. And when this began airing in I think it was 1969, hooked, stayed with it all 5 seasons. And there's a local dog saying hello. Hi, buddy. Hello. And yeah, the many spin-offs and TV movies and feature films that came in its wake. And it's still kind of a cultural phenomenon. And again, the fact that I haven't come to take a look at it with my own 2 eyes until today. Bit of a shame, but yeah, very excited. All right, there it is. And you can see there's a security vehicle parked out in front. I understand that is now permanent. Wow. I love it. That is the Brady home. Getting a flood of memories right now. Oh, that's just fantastic. So what I've gathered from the internet is that the home was chosen by the producers because it was kind of this classic example of a middle-class home in the 60s and 70s. And that's exactly who they wanted the Bradys to be, kind of the every family of America. And they did not shoot any of the interiors here. This is strictly used for exteriors. And it was really only shot a handful of times, as once they had kind of the exterior establishing shot, they just reused it over and over again. And in, I guess, 2018, House and Garden Television bought the home. It was up on the market, and there was kind of a bidding war, a little bit anyway. Lance Bass, is that his name, from NSYNC, apparently wanted to make an offer, and Maureen McCormick, who played Marcia, the eldest daughter, was also interested, but kind of backed out when she realized what a what a kind of a feeding frenzy it was. And so House and Garden stepped up and made the purchase. And they have since run some kind of a reality show. I think it was called A Very Brady Renovation, when they got the Brady kids back together, all 6 of them, and with some skilled laborers, restored the interior to look as much like the original shooting sets as possible, which is pretty great. Now, I don't know if there is any way to get in, or if at some point they are planning on having tours inside the home, but at the moment you really can just come by and enjoy the exterior, and frankly that is good enough for me. Oh, I can't count the hours I sat glued in front of the TV screen watching the exploits of that family that lived behind these walls. So great. I really appreciate they made the private property no trespassing sign with the Brady Bunch title font. Consistent theming, important. Yeah, this was a really important part of my my early childhood. I remember so many classic kind of episodes. The two-parter, when they went to Cincinnati and visited Kings Island. That was pretty sweet. I think the Partridge Family did that too at one point, but I think the Bradys did it first. And then the massive 3-part trip to Hawaii special that included Vincent Price, tiki gods, and a tarantula cameo. That was pretty epic. And of course, the Marcia, Marcia, Marcia refrain from good old Jan. By the way, there was a movie that was made, oh man, a few years ago, and now I'm blanking on the title. It was Blue something, Blue Horizon. Anyway, very dark, gritty drama, excellent movie. And Eve Plum, who played Jan, the middle sister, has a role in it. It's not huge, but it's very unlike anything you've ever seen her do before, and she's great. Really cool to see her continuing to ply her craft in that film. And this is completely unverified by me personally, but again, the internet suggested that this home is the second most photographed home in America, behind only the White House. Which seems kind of staggering, but the fact that there's a security car parked out in front of here, even now in 2022, I guess that could be true. But that's pretty amazing. What is kind of cool, and what realtors said made the property even more valuable than it would be plunked in some other area, is that it is kind of in this corner where the LA River and the street converge. You can see there's a kind of a junction here where we have to make a hard left, and apparently the backyard has a really nice space to it that overlooks the river. And hopefully someday when the property is reopened to tours or open for the first time, we'll get a chance to check that out. So in doing some of the research about the home and the show itself, Wikipedia mentioned that the Brady Bunch show was never considered to be a major commercial success, which I find a little strange, because when I was a kid, man, we all watched that show to death, and it ran for 5 seasons, and you don't usually see shows running for 5 seasons that don't bring in some money. But regardless, after the first run ended in 1974, the show went into syndication in 75, and apparently that's when the popularity really took off, and that's what led to all the various spin-off shows and TV movies, etc. And that Brady Bunch kind of variety hour that they ran in 76 to 77, I think, that was pretty surreal. And of course, The Simpsons did a hysterical parody of that particular endeavor. But then, of course, there were the Brady Brides. I think it was another one, a Christmas one. And then in the 90s, I think it was 1990, Sherwood Schwartz made an attempt to kind of reimagine the show as kind of a drama called The Bradys, with all kinds of real issues that the family did not address in their more kind of idealized sitcom lifestyle from early on. It was an interesting idea, and I do applaud them for trying it out, but it was very strange. I think Bobby, the youngest son, was a paralyzed former race car driver, and I don't know, it was very strange. But yeah, the Bradys live on in our imaginations, and I have a feeling this is one of those properties that's going to continue to get rebooted and revisited as the decades go by. When I was a kid, my mom somehow arranged for us to go visit the Partridge Family set during a shoot, and I can't remember quite how she pulled that off, but it was pretty great. Got to meet Shirley Jones and Danny Bonaducci, and of course Susan Day came over, and I was so like madly in love with her, I couldn't muster a word, so I kind of shrunk behind my mom. It was pretty pathetic. But that was great. But I never got to the Brady set, and boy, I sure would have loved to have done that. Met the entire cast. Of course, you know, Robert Reed sadly passed away quite some time ago. Another good actor who just never got his due. But yeah, what a show. Just loved it. I was very pleased to discover that in 1997, when TV Guide made a list of the greatest TV episodes of all time, the season 3, episode 12 from the series, Getting Davy Jones, was named the 37th on that list. Pretty high up. I like it. And it was pretty cool to have a crossover with the Monkees, another show I was extremely devoted to as a kid, still love it to death. But yeah, just another reminder that it remains a part of our shared culture, for people of a certain age at least. I just recently had a quick Twitter exchange with a friend debating the merits of the greatest opening TV credit sequences and theme songs, and they were correct to point out that Gilligan's Island theme has got to be considered one of the greatest of all time. And of course, Gilligan's Island, also created by Sherwood Schwartz, legendary TV writer, producer, etc., who gave us the Brady Bunch as well as a bunch of other stuff. And he actually composed the opening themes to Gilligan's Island, the Brady Bunch, and I think one more series. So for all of us who will never get that amazing theme song out of our heads, da 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 da, right? I mean, there it is. That's good old Sherwood Schwartz. And of course, the bonus is the neighborhood in which the house sits is super pleasant too. Just under 2 miles away from my apartment building. So Ventura Boulevard is kind of the main commercial drag through my part of the hood. And they do have this awesome old school bowling alley here. I haven't been bowling in ages, but I love that old neon sign. And it's now kind of been rebranded as Pins, P-I-N-Z. It's pretty clever, Pins, when you have time to spare. It's funny, a couple of weeks ago that sign the message board below it read, "Hipsters, we have avocado toast." They know their local audience. So this is pretty great. When Paul Thomas Anderson was making his latest film, Licorice Pizza, which is all about kind of growing up in the valley back in the day, they recreated this storefront, which brings back a lot of happy memories. I bought Beastie Boys, License to Ill, at a Licorice Pizza location in West LA many years ago. And I tell you, Licorice Pizza, what an absolutely brilliant name for a chain of vinyl record stores. Well, this is pretty fantastic. I thought it was just a storefront, but it is back to being a functioning record store. Look at this. You got vinyl, t-shirts, audio gear, right on. Yeah. And it looks like bands play here now. Sweet. And of course, a classic toy store is always going to get my attention. Just walking by, and look at that gorgeous Ferris wheel in there. Oh, I don't even want to know what that costs, because I might be separated from that amount of money very quickly. That's beautiful. And of course, I love this Studio City bookstore, bookseller. It is a Barnes & Noble outlet, but as you can see, they converted an old movie theater, and it is a beaut. And I love that they maintained the ticket booth out front. Oh, that is quite lovely. And it's just good to know I've got a pretty decent sized bookstore very close to my homestead. I appreciate that. I'd hazard to say there are more sushi restaurants per square mile in this area than anywhere else in the world outside of maybe Japan. I mean, that's a wild assumption, but, and I'm not complaining, it's so great. But there is this particular location, Mr. O's. I love this signage so much. It's that alone is going to get me to come here someday. And I think that is going to bring this one to a close. Now we're just up here overlooking Universal City, which is adjacent to Studio City and home to even more of the major studios, obviously, along with Burbank, where you'll find Disney and Warner's. And yeah, you can see Griffith Park over there way off to the right, and not too far from the right hand side too, the peaks of Hogwarts and some of the other colorful, what is that, Minions Land at Universal Studios there, to the right of the Comcast Universal Tower. Yeah, definitely hazier today than we've seen in a bit. I think it's thanks to the heat we've had recently, kind of holding all the smog closer to the ground. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look around, some of the highlights of Studio City, at least my personal highlights. And yeah, we will catch you in the next one.